Hi everyone, welcome to our weekly training video. Today we are talking about what to do if your dog is too afraid to walk very far from home. Last week we talked about potential reasons why some dogs might sort of plop down or plant their feet and refuse to move forward on a walk. And this week we're talking about if your dog is doing this, you think, because they're afraid to walk very far, what can you do about it? So, dog refuses to walk far from home, 5 tips to help your fearful dog learn to love their walks. Who is this for? This is for you if your anxious dog sometimes refuses to move on walks, and you think it's at least partly because your dog doesn't like to walk very far from home and you want to know what to do about it. Now, this is from last week, but some possible reasons dogs might refuse to keep moving on their walks is to avoid, escape, or delay something happening that they don't want to happen, like moving farther from home, moving towards something they find unpleasant or scary, potentially continued exertion if your dog has any pain or discomfort or is just tired or overheated. They may also do this if it results in attention from you or treats, or in an ability to interact with people or other dogs if they happen to like that. But today we're focusing on this top one, what to do if your dog is balking on walks, we think because they don't want to go farther from home. So how can you tell if this is why your dog is stopping? You may already have a pretty good idea, but some clues that might be helpful are one, in order to get your dog to walk away from home at all, you have to either pull on the leash or lure them with treats. Otherwise, they will not willingly walk away from the house. If the consequence of your dog balking or stopping on walks is that you turn and take them home, that might indicate that going back home is reinforcing to them. That's what they want. If your dog does this more often once you get a certain distance from home, that might mean that it's because of the distance. If it's kind of consistent, they don't like being a certain distance from home. And you may have a dog who turns around and then tries to pull home. That's another indication that might be what they want, is not to go so far from home and just to go back home. Okay, so what should we do if your dog doesn't want to walk very far? Tip number 1, go ahead and get your dog checked out for pain or any other, any source of discomfort that might affect their walking. This is especially important if your dog used to go on long walks happily and now they don't anymore. But either way, I would always want to rule out pain, just in case if your dog doesn't really want to walk very far. Assuming your dog is healthy, and now you want to work on some training and want to help them start to be more comfortable moving farther from home, perhaps counterintuitively, tip number 2 is stop walking so far. If your dog doesn't want to go more than 2 blocks from home, so say at 2 blocks away they start to balk or try to pull back towards home, don't walk 2 blocks. Just walk as far as your dog will go happily without you trying to encourage them by luring with food or pulling on the leash. I know this might not make sense, but you want this walking experience to be positive for your dog, so they want to keep doing it and maybe do more of it. Pushing them to sort of the extreme for them, sort of the point where they no longer are having fun and want to go home, might be working against you. So only walk as far as your dog will go happily. Tip number 3, and this kind of is overlapping with tip number 2, let your dog lead the way so they can kind of indicate which direction they want to go. So that means having them out in front if they will do that comfortably. Try to watch them carefully and see what they want to do. Instead of having in your mind sort of the idea of, well, we're going to go for a 2-mile walk in this direction. If your dog is anxious walking away from home, let them explore at their own pace, watch them and honor their decisions, what they're telling you. Tip number 4, make the walk fun. Make sure your dog has lots of opportunities to stop and sniff, to get treats, maybe through training games or just sniffing them out on the ground. You could bring their favorite toys with you on the walk. And I know I said, try not to use treats to lure them in a particular direction if they don't want to go that way. And that's not what I'm talking about here. Just incorporate, favorite training games or whatever in the walk to make it more fun. But don't use the treats to try to pressure them to go farther than they really want to go. And finally, tip number 5, which again, there's some overlap with the earlier tips, go home at the first sign of decreased enthusiasm. So don't wait until your dog is refusing to move, or is pulling toward home, or looks really scared, watch for just the first sign that they're not having quite as much fun as they were originally when you left the house. So some things that you might want to watch for include them slowing down, starting to lag, like they used to be out in front of you and now they're lagging behind a bit. Perhaps they've started stopping more frequently and kind of scanning the environment rather than stopping to sniff. Some dogs, when they start to get anxious, will start jumping up on you or will try to rush along the sidewalk, like hurry without investigating the environment at all. So any signs that your dog is starting to get a little less happy about the situation, go ahead and go home. Ideally, go home before you see any signs of decreased enthusiasm, but if you can't, if you don't go home before that, try to heed that very first sign that they're not having as much fun as they could be. Okay, so quick recap. If you have a dog who doesn't want to walk far from home, what should you do? Tip number 1, get a vet check. Make sure there's no pain that is causing this issue. Number 2, don't walk so far. Do shorter walks that are fun for your dog. Number 3, let your dog lead the way, within reason, of course. You don't want them to walk into the middle of the street or anything, but let them kind of determine what route you're going to take, how far, what direction, as much as you can. Make it fun by incorporating favorite training games, favorite toys and treats, and make sure to head home either before or at the very first sign that your dog isn't having as much fun as they were when you started. All right, everybody, I hope these tips were helpful. If you want to be alerted to our weekly free content or any new courses, offerings, or discounts, please go to the link at the bottom of the slide, dogkindtraining.com/newsletter. If you sign up there, then every week you'll get an update about what's going on with us and what free resources we have for you. All right, have a wonderful week, everybody. I'll see you next week.